Hey, what's up you guys? Bloody Jacob here to bring you another QMR quick movie reviews set of action movie reviews if this wasn't obvious. This time we're going to be talking about Good Guys Wear Black and Hellbound, both starring Chuck Norris, as well as Steven Seagal in The Keeper, A Dangerous Man, Born to Raise Hell, and finally Alien Agent with Mark Dacascos and Billy Zane.
Jacob here, meeting my icon, Catherine Isabel.
Bloody Jacob for sexy, awesome, exclusive content.
Subscribe and watch my friend on the YouTube channel. He is kicking ass.
Fuck with me and my friend! I'm after my family! Get in!
Subscribe.
That sounds like a warning.
It's an invitation.
Mwah.
And starting things off with Good Guys Wear Black, which was Chuck Norris's second lead film in his career, after being known for being the villain in Bruce Lee's Way of the Dragon, along with his film Breaker, which I've already talked about. He had Good Guys Wear Black here, which is about an ex-US Army commando who must find the reason why his comrades from his unit are being systematically murdered before he is next. And so yeah, they have a little bit of flashbacks to a certain operation he and his sort of war buddies, if you want to call them that, were involved in, and it's all tied into this big conspiracy involving the whys and hows of that. And meanwhile, you have Chuck Norris sort of taking on a love interest, and then she's part of it as well, in some capacity. So yeah, if you guys have seen, I've reviewed a lot of Chuck Norris's earlier films, from Breaker to Silent Rage to Force of One to The Octagon, and I quite enjoy Chuck Norris's early work, be it late 70s, early 80s, blonde hair Chuck Norris, or blonde hair and beard, whatever you want to do. And I've enjoyed all of them quite a bit, actually. 2 or 3 of them I actually like more than some of his more popular films that he ended up doing. And I'd say Good Guys Wear Black is pretty on par with those, I think. Now I may prefer all those movies to Good Guys Wear Black, but I still think Good Guys Wear Black is about the same quality. Generally speaking, Chuck Norris's films have a really nice consistency to them. And it's shown here from the, in my opinion, from the transition from this to like the next decade of his career, and so on and so forth. And again, I know I said this in every Chuck Norris video, but I know Chuck Norris isn't known for his acting ability, but I do feel like he's more of a natural performance-wise than a lot of the other actors in the genre. And that's evident here. He's likable, fairly easy to root for. He shows a lot of conviction and everything when he has to. Now, this film doesn't have a lot of martial arts in it. There's a small handful of skirmishes, and Chuck does show off some really nice and wild kicks. And of course, as you see in all the covers, he does a pretty great one through the windshield and everything. I've seen some people say this movie is too talky or something like that. And yeah, there is more talking than in an average Chuck Norris film, I think, even more than those other earlier ones. But I liked it, I admired that they actually, tried to build a narrative and everything, and I found it fairly engaging. I wouldn't say it was the most, exciting, story in the world, but it worked quite well, and I thought it was, paced in a pretty solid way. Although I think there are other decent actors involved with it as well, from Ann Archer to James Francois to Lloyd Haynes. Although I do think James Francois as Conrad Morgan and Booker, Chuck Norris's confrontation at the end could have been a little bit more than it was. But still ends on satisfying though with that as well. So overall, Good Guys Wear Black, on par with how much I enjoyed his other earlier work. Although I'd say not really one of the ones I'd necessarily jump to watch again. If that makes any sense, I don't know. But I'm glad to have seen it, and I'm glad to have it in my collection. And then next up, we're going to be talking about Chuck Norris and Hellbound. Quite a big leap, for films of his. Hellbound came out in 1994. It's about two Chicago cops that investigate a murder until they encounter an ancient demon. Basically, Chuck's character is thrown off by an attacker after they investigate a situation locally within the streets of Chicago that they frequent, and then it takes them across the world to Israel and everything like that. I think it is. So yeah, this is really one of Chuck Norris's only genre films that has a bit of a horror vibe to it, a bit of a supernatural type thing going on, which I'm always open to. I like some of the things Dolph Lundgren's done that are kind of like that. Obviously you have Arnold and everything, who's done very different genre type films, but we're talking martial artists. So yeah, I just like seeing a great action martial arts star in that type of scenario in general. It does the genre horror fan in me proud, and now I'm actually sort of getting some sort of extra engagement with it. Hellbound was alright. I like he and his partner's chemistry. His partner being played by, I think it's Kelvin Levels. And they have a good banter. I was not expecting the buddy cop element of this film. I did not read too much about it. So it was a pleasant surprise. I have a nice, lively sort of way of bouncing off each other that I thought worked fairly well. And we have a very over-the-top villain here, played by Christopher Neame as this guy Lockley. And now, hold on, I guess open something I show me. I don't know what that is. And he fits the kind of film they're doing. He is very, very over the top too. Especially this supposed alien or supernatural cross eyes thing he does. It just ends up looking really silly. And he is a bit much, but it's fine for what it is. And you get to see Chuck unload quite a bit on him when of course they finally are able to their showdown. And you do get sort of like an eeriness or an unease when the guy's on screen. So I guess he worked well enough in that way. I also like the dynamic with Chuck, his partner Calvin, and a little kid they end up finding up in the town. So it's a fun little side thing that I think is a nice little addition to it. They always have like a touch of that kind of thing in Chuck Norris film, most of the time. Like I said, you get to see Chuck unload quite a bit, although I wouldn't say like any fight scenes themselves are overly memorable. Although you sort of get a classic Chuck moment before he really gets into investigating this guy or this thing. When you see how he and his partner do this bad cop good cop thing, and that part is pretty entertaining. I like that quite a bit. Overall, it's not as memorable as you'd like, be it in a way that's so bad it's good, or a way that's actually shockingly good. It's sort of in the middle of those two, I feel like. I've seen some people really not like this film, but I think it's decent enough. If you're looking for a comparison, even though it came out before both of these, I'd say it's a little like Van Damme's The Order with Dolph Lundgren's The Minion, and I like both of those movies more. But I like that Chuck did a movie like this, and it's not really a difficult watch. So yeah, you guys thought about that one. Next up, we're going to be changing gears to Steven Seagal here. First off, we're talking about The Keeper, and you guys know I have a weird relationship with Steven Seagal here. I have a lot of issues with things he's done in his personal life and how he's conducted himself on apparent occasions. But indisputably, I do honestly enjoy some of his work, a good chunk of his work at this point. For some reason, it's very easy for me to watch yet another 2000s, 2010s direct-to-video Seagal film than it is for with anyone else, and that's got to mean something, right? It's just weirdly sort of addicting, I guess. And I do gain some enjoyment out of it in a serious way. I would have to. I shouldn't just spend all my time coming up with random, middle school insults for the guy that I've been posting in comment sections, 1,001 times or so. But The Keeper was one of those ones I actually heard was actually all around decent for most people. IMDb's description reads, Roland Salinger is an LA cop who, after nearly being killed by his greedy partner and eventually being forced to retire for medical reasons, flees to San Antonio, Texas. After being asked to work as a bodyguard for the daughter of a wealthy businessman, the businessman had been a colleague of Salinger years before, when they were both cops. When mobsters kidnapped the businessman's daughter, he hunts them down to rescue and protect her. So, again, Steven Seagal, probably known even less for his actual acting, gives probably the best performance you'll see from him, or that I've seen. He comes across like more of a genuine character than he usually does, at the very least. And I actually found him pretty likable in this. I liked his dynamic with the girl he used to know, who is the daughter of his old cop buddy, who he's checking in on. At first I thought they were going to go like a weird romance route with it, and that was going to make me a little uneasy. But they don't, luckily, and they keep it a sort of second father figure, kind of cool uncle, type thing that she wants to learn more about. So I like that relationship. I think the opening with him and his greedy partner is actually pretty good. I thought that's going to be like a, chunk of the whole film's plot, but no, they actually sort of basically see it as like an opening backstory, and they have resolved how it is. But I still like that as well. I mean, it's just different to see Seagal take any kind of damage, and then he still pulls it off really well. I think I was basically an homage to, Hard to Kill, which I do not mind, which Hard to Kill is maybe still my personal favorite, classic era Seagal film anyway. But yeah, I liked The Keeper, not the most action, not even out of all these movies we're talking about, right, within this video. But it still has some decent action scenes, and, along with the surprisingly decent acting, at least for him, from Seagal. He feels like a real character, and I like that they actually took a minute or two to, actually focus on, the dynamic and the care he had for her and everything. But it still has some, really cool, I think, sort of trademark Seagal moments. You have him, of course, bending a guy's wrist back and, tossing him around and everything. And basically, Seagal gets him to say, okay, I have two rules. One is that I kill anyone who pulls a knife on me, and two is I don't hurt children, or I don't kill children, or something. And, which rule do you want me to go by today? And then he says, you know, don't kill children, don't kill children. So, you know, I mean, I thought it was kind of funny for Seagal to, you know, get the guy to, you know, beg and plead that he's a child and, you know, don't hurt him anymore, don't kill him. I don't know, it was, you know, it got a chuckle for me, I'll admit it. It's a fun enough, you know, decent enough shootout sequence towards the end. But what makes this movie as enjoyable as it was to me, again, was Seagal's character, Roland Salinger, here. And that scene, that's kind of what puts down the sort of pedestal it is, I guess. And Seagal and the director would later go on to work together more than once. You know, Keone Waxman. I do think the film was shot decently anyway. He worked with Seagal in his TV show True Justice. You know, as an executive producer, Force of Execution as an executive producer, which I'm looking forward to watching. You know, End of a Gun and Absolution, some others as a producer. But in terms of actual directing, which I should have been talking about, of course, A Dangerous Man, which we'll be talking about shortly. Maximum Conviction, Force of Execution, again, A Good Man. Absolution, like I already said, Cartels, Under the Gun, Contract to Kill. So yeah, you know, so apparently they get along, you know, fairly well. It's not just like a 3-film contract they're forced to abide by. So that's good. Next up, we're going to be talking about A Dangerous Man, again directed by Keone Waxman. And this film, going off of IMDb, it's about a man after 14 years in special ops and 6 years wrongfully imprisoned in the middle of a Chinese triad corrupt police shootout, saving a Russian gangster's son and liberating a Chinese girl in a bag of money. The girl asks for help. So, you know, this bag of money is pretty important, and he and the gangster's son end up, you know, going off with it, and, you know, the girl's caught in the middle for her own reasons. So one of the things I enjoyed most about it was sort of that on the run aspect. We got to it for a little bit, which is something we haven't really seen this Seagal movie do before, so I enjoyed that type of premise while it lasted. And you have Byron Mann as sort of our main villain in it, who is you know, very good, you know, physically talented performer himself. And even if, you know, he's sort of let down and, you know, sort of embarrassed like any other Seagal, you know, baddie or bitch, you know, he's still a credible guy to have in these movies, and he is also with Seagal in Into the Sun and everything. Terry Chen I thought was quite good here as well, who I've seen in quite a few different genre work. Mike Dupad, you know, he was a constant in these types of films as well as different genre TV and stuff. And Jesse Hutch, who played the guy Trey, I think his name was, or Trent or something, who was the guy who ended up being folded in half by Jason on the bed in Freddy vs. Jason. So that's pretty funny for me as a, you know, big horror diehard fan and everything. So he was, you know, likable enough here. And you have Marlena May playing Tia, the girl who you know, they both end up trying to protect and everything, and has her own reasons for being caught up in it. Don't want to spoil it, of course. Seagal's name here is Shane Daniels. It was entertaining, you know, like I said, I liked the on the run aspect of it. They could have done more with a hand-to-hand fight with him and Byron Mann. That it seemed like they were building to, but Seagal just makes him, you know, an idiot and everything. So it's fine on that end. But there are actually a lot of you know, fisticuffs in both this and The Keeper. There seemed to be fairly little you know, stunt double work anyway, so that was nice. There is definitely more action in this one than The Keeper. Some fairly nicely staged shootouts and stuff like that, given the type of film. So yeah, I actually did not mind this. I will say I think I might have preferred The Keeper still, just because of the character and everything, but I don't know, I could see myself being more in the mood for this at certain points too. So yeah, Dangerous Man, another actually surprisingly solid Steven Seagal 2000s film. And next up, just two more guys, I promise. Born to Raise Hell. again starring Steven Seagal, which came out in 2010. Directed by Lauro David Chartrand de Level, I guess. Steven Seagal actually wrote this one. Of course, starred himself. It's about a U.S. drugs cop and a bureaucrat is up against a Russian gun and drug trafficking employee, cute women, and a gypsy gang leader who plunders, rapes, and kills the young and the rich. Lots of fighting and shooting. That's literally what it says on IMDb. Now, well, I'd say this film isn't as good as The Keeper or A Dangerous Man, and it's a bit more standard fare for what you'd expect even for Seagal. This one is still alright, is adequate, decent enough. It still wasn't quite boring. It was definitely a little more basic though, although I appreciated, I guess it was a fairly well-paced story for as straightforward and common as it was. Darren Shalabi, who we often see as a bad guy in these types of films, he is appropriately scummy here. He really actually wanted to get his ass beat and killed. I also gotta say, let's see. Yeah, there's another actor who played one of the main bosses here. Whose motives end up becoming a little more complex, I guess, and kind of at odds with the other baddie I just told you about. Yep, Dan Bardaro. I think he was probably the most interesting character in the film, and I actually found the direction I took him in by the end of it kind of interesting. He has a pretty standout moment in the film. When he lets his hair down. Oh shit. I'm not talking about Seagal, but so that character sort of saved the film a bit for me, at least by the end, or at least gave it a little bit more to go on. And the rest of it's alright. There are some decent shootouts. Seagal's usual, slapping people around and such. One outside a van where the guys come up to it when they're on like this stakeout recording sort of thing. And Seagal doing that was actually pretty entertaining. He has a partner or two in this, and it's pretty standard stuff on that end. I feel like they both sort of energy vacuums myself, but it is what it is. This one's pretty standard, not quite as memorable as the other two, and a bit more of what you'd expect, but not nearly as dull as ones like Mercenary for Justice and Submerged and such, so don't worry. Not too bad. And I basically found a copy of it at Big Lots. Go to Big Lots if you want to buy it. They seem to be popping up everywhere. And finally, we're going to be talking about, yes, not another Steven Seagal film, but Mark Dacascos, starring alongside Billy Zane and Alien Agent. Came out in 2007. It's about a lawman from another galaxy who must stop an invading force from building a gateway to planet Earth. So yeah, this one, again, I like when my action guys, my martial arts guys do genre films, get me some sort of more to go on being the big genre fan I am. So mixing both those together, I'm automatically pretty interested. And I'd heard quite a few good things about this from my brother, who may be you may not be quite as picky with these films as I am. But nonetheless, we both trust each other's perspectives on this sort of thing. And I am a big fan of Mark Dacascos. I think he is one of the most gifted and athletic actors to ever, or martial artists to ever really be on screen. He's extremely likable and easy to root for, and he is here too. Although it feels like he's kind of sleepwalking, through the role. I don't know if it wasn't because he was. It was because he wasn't interested, or he was, he's just that good at it now. He did feel a little off at times, like his energy wasn't fully into it, but it is what it is on that end, and it's still Mark Dacascos. He still held the movie up for me really, really nicely. Billy Zane, I think, basically has an extended cameo, not cameo, but more of an extended, sort of guest role. He's in it a little bit towards the first quarter of the film, a touch in the middle, and then a fair bit at the end, but really Emilia Cook ends up playing sort of a main antagonist. She has a history with Mark Dacascos' extraterrestrial character Riker. So there's some tension on that end, I guess. And then you have this girl Julie, played by Lahana, who is pretty decent, I guess. You also have Kim Coates here. Yeah, a little bit different from his character in Sons of Anarchy and some of his rougher roles. So funny seeing him as like this weird scientist who's been roped into helping the aliens and such. I gotta say though, besides Dacascos, and Billy Zane was decent here too, but besides two of them, the acting ranged from pretty amateurish to awkward and stilted at times. I don't know, it just did not work. Emilia Cook as Isis, I did not buy it. I did not buy that there is some long pass between the two. It just came across clunky for me. Kim Coates is okay. It's just just odd and fun to watch him do anything like this, I guess. I don't know, and like I get they had a low budget, so I understand these things, and I've loved films with even lower budgets than this. But still, the environment and just sort of the buildings they used got a little bit dull and repetitive and drab for me. That is what it is. We do get to see Mark Dacascos have some real, pretty nice fight scenes, I'd say. Have a good level of impact, I suppose, and they're decently choreographed. I mean, you had Jesse V. Johnson at the director's home in this, who's gone on to do some really great films with Scott Adkins and such. So there's a touch of that understanding there to the fight scenes and the action scenes, which is nice. Besides that, Mark Dacascos himself, really, who just has that really likable persona about him, even when it's not like his greatest work. The film is pretty, kind of blah for me. I don't know. And of course the CG effects, I get it, low budget, but they nonetheless looked like they didn't exist at all. It's pure, computer work, and I don't know. It is what it is with that kind of thing too. So yeah, overall, fairly positive, a fairly somewhat a little bit of a mixed bag with this sort of QMR videos or QMR reviews, excuse me. If I had to rank them, it's quite a few weird things to rank here. But if I had to, I'd guess I'd put probably either The Keeper or A Dangerous Man in first place, followed by Hellbound, which I had fun with minus some of its shortcomings, followed by Good Guys Wear Black, and then Alien Agent for Mark Dacascos' sake, then Born to Raise Hell. But I didn't really hate any of these. I liked them all to some extent. Maybe one or two a little more disappointing than others. But it is what it is. I was on the move for each amount of time, so that probably helped. So yeah, alright guys, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, like, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.